Breaking overnight, police have arrested a man that they say killed two people last June. Rashian Gist is expected in court this morning. The investigation began after two people were found shot in a car on Bowden Road.
Right now at 5, two families are grieving the loss of a young couple they say were shot and killed last night. Police say two people were shot at the Bowden Corners shopping village. That's on the south side at around 9:15.
A man convicted of killing two people next to a Southside ATM more than 2 years ago will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Two local families say they will now start to heal following the sentencing today of a man who killed their loved ones. Rashian Gist will spend his life in prison for the 2022 murders of Jamarian Barnes and Tania Powell. They were shot at a Southside ATM.
GD family members say they're satisfied with this life sentence. Powell's younger sister says that she hopes now Gist will see the harm that he's caused.
On a quiet night in June 2022, Jacksonville, Florida was rocked by a tragic event that left two young lives cut short. In this episode of Urban Crime Stories, we will dive deep into the heartbreaking case of Tania Powell and Jamarian Barnes, a couple ambushed and murdered at a local ATM. We will explore the investigation that led to the arrest of Rashian Gist, the intense legal battle, and the broader implications of gun violence in their community. Before we continue, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe and turn on all notifications to be informed of future crime stories. Tania Powell and Jamarian Barnes were two young people just beginning to carve out their paths in life. Tania, who was 20 years old at the time, was known for her radiant personality and strong character. She was someone who brought joy to those around her, always ready with a smile and a kind word. Jamarian, who was 21, was equally beloved, remembered for his gentle nature and devotion to his young daughter. He was a proud father who cherished every moment he could spend with her. The two had been in a relationship, their bond a source of mutual support and happiness. They were navigating the challenges of young adulthood together with dreams and aspirations for the future. But on that fateful night in June, their lives were brutally cut short in an act of violence that stunned their community. During this period, Jacksonville was grappling with a troubling rise in violent crimes, particularly gun violence. The city, like many others across the country, was dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic, which had exacerbated tensions and economic hardships. Communities were on edge, and incidents like the one involving Tania and Jamarian only served to heighten fears and anxieties. At around 9:30 p.m. on June 20th, 2022, Tania and Jamarian pulled up to an ATM on Bowden Road in Jacksonville, unaware of the danger that awaited them. The area was quiet, with only the hum of nearby traffic breaking the silence. As they conducted their transaction, the routine errand quickly turned into a nightmare. As they pulled up to the ATM without warning, Rashian walked up to the car and opened fire, striking both Tania and Jamarian multiple times. The ambush was swift and brutal, leaving them with no time to react or defend themselves. Jamarian was killed instantly, his life ending right there in the car. Tania, though gravely wounded, fought to survive as she was rushed to a nearby hospital. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, she succumbed to her injuries shortly after. The aftermath of the shooting was heartbreaking. The scene at the ATM was chaotic, with police and emergency responders working frantically to secure the area and gather evidence. The news of the double murder spread quickly, sending shockwaves through the community and leaving their loved ones devastated. The senseless act of violence had claimed two promising young lives, leaving a void that could never be filled. The investigation into the deaths of Tania and Jamarian began immediately after the shooting. Jacksonville police arrived at the crime scene, quickly realizing that the crime was not a robbery gone wrong or a random act of violence. It was a calculated and cold-blooded attack. The community's assistance was invaluable as within hours, tips began flooding in, leading investigators to focus on Rashian Gist, who was already known to the victims. Surveillance footage from the ATM proved to be a critical piece of evidence. The grainy video captured a figure matching Rashian's description, approaching the couple's car just before the shooting. The footage showed Rashian leaning into the vehicle, then quickly walking away with something in his hand. Moments later, he returned, appearing agitated before fleeing the scene. The images, though not crystal clear, provided enough to suggest that Rashian was the person involved. But it was the digital trail that cemented Rashian's guilt. Investigators uncovered text messages and FaceTime call logs between Rashian and one of the victims from earlier that day. The messages revealed that Rayshawn had planned to meet the couple that evening under the pretense of needing a favor. He texted Jamarian, "Hey, I need a pee 'cause my plug is still in Texas," referring to a transaction he wanted to arrange. This message, coupled with the fact that Rayshawn had asked to be picked up near his home, which was just a mile from the crime scene, painted a clear picture of premeditated crime. Additionally, forensic evidence from the crime scene linked Rayshawn to the murders. Ballistics tests matched the bullets recovered from the victims to a gun that was later found in Rayshawn's possession. Furthermore, Jamarian's phone, which was left behind in the car, provided a damning connection when reviewed by police. It contained the texts and call records that pointed directly to Rayshawn. With the evidence mounting against him, police moved quickly to arrest Rayshawn. He was taken into custody just 2 days after the murders, facing charges of double homicide. The combination of community involvement, surveillance footage, and irrefutable digital and forensic evidence made it clear that Rayshawn had orchestrated and executed the fatal ambush. This swift and thorough investigation ensured that Rayshawn would be held accountable, bringing some measure of closure to the grieving families of Tania and Jamarian.
That was his happiest day of his life, was when he became a dad. He loved her to pieces, and it breaks my heart that he's not here to watch her grow and, all of her first.
The legal proceedings against Rayshawn Gist were intense and emotional, reflecting the severity of the crimes. Charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, Rayshawn faced a trial that began with the presentation of the overwhelming evidence against him. The prosecution meticulously laid out the case, starting with the surveillance footage from the ATM that captured Rayshawn's movements and actions on the night of June 20th, 2022. The prosecution also relied heavily on the digital evidence obtained from Jamarian Barnes's phone. Text messages between Jamarian and Rayshawn provided a timeline of events leading up to the shooting. The messages revealed that Rayshawn had coordinated with Jamarian to meet that evening, under the pretense of needing help with a transaction. Testimonies from witnesses, including investigators and forensic experts, further solidified the case. Forensic evidence, such as the ballistic analysis linking the bullets to the gun found in Rayshawn's possession, was presented to the jury.
When investigators found the gun, they connected it to shell casings found in the car.
The defense, in contrast, attempted to undermine the credibility of the evidence. They argued that the surveillance footage was inconclusive and that the digital evidence could be interpreted differently. However, their arguments were not enough to create reasonable doubt in the jury's minds. After several days of deliberation, the jury found Rayshawn Gist guilty of both counts of first-degree murder in May 2024. The conviction marked a significant moment in the trial, as it affirmed the prosecution's narrative of a premeditated and cold-blooded crime. During the sentencing phase in July 2024, the courtroom was filled with the palpable grief of the victims' families. Tania Powell's mother and sister, as well as Jamarian Barnes's mother, delivered heart-wrenching impact statements describing the profound void left by their loss.
The day that my sister died is the day I knew I would never be the same. The pain cannot be changed. My life has changed forever. Call it my life sentence.
Our life will never be the same again. Not only did I lose my son, but your mother also lost a son as well. And now she shares in this grief and pain.
Judge Jonathan Sachs, who presided over the case, did not hesitate in handing down a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Based off of the jury's verdict, Mr. Gist, in regards to counts 1 and 2, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment, which is mandatory life.
In his remarks, he emphasized the senseless nature of the crime and the irreparable harm caused to the victims' families. The sentence was intended to ensure that Rayshawn would never again have the opportunity to harm another person. Rayshawn's defense attorney, Obinna Prince Ainam, indicated that they intended to appeal the conviction and sentence, maintaining Rayshawn's claim of innocence. However, for the families of Tania and Jamarian, the life sentence brought a measure of justice, even if it could never undo the tragedy that had befallen them. The tragic case of Tania Powell and Jamarian Barnes highlighted the broader issue of gun violence plaguing Jacksonville. Their deaths were a reminder of the ongoing struggle to curb violence in the city, where rising crime rates had become a significant concern. The community's response was one of grief and a renewed call for action, demanding stricter gun control measures and increased efforts to prevent such tragedies. What are your thoughts about this story? Do you believe Rayshawn Gist is innocent based on the grainy video footage? Or is he the sole suspect of this crime? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so that you will not miss future episodes. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you with another episode of Urban Crime Stories.